Welcome to Through the Hurricane. I'm Kathleen Kane, the first woman elected Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Have you ever looked down and seen the pieces of your life on the floor and wondered what happened? You haven't just been through a storm, you've been through a hurricane. Sometimes we think that we'll never have joy, we'll never have love again, we'll never have a normal life again. But Through the Hurricane will teach you that the power of love and resistance and the human mind can do anything. We all experience a hurricane, but the human spirit is indestructible. This is Through the Hurricane. Let's walk through the storm together. Welcome to Through the Hurricane. I'm your host, Kathleen Kane. For those of you who are watching us and not just listening, you will see that we took our show on the road. We went from the frozen tundra of Scranton, Pennsylvania, to the Sunshine State, where it's beautiful here. It was worth the trip. Our guest today is Paul Frase. Paul is the epitome of the story of Friday Night Lights from New Hampshire to Division I Syracuse football, also earning a degree in psychology, and then on to 11 seasons in the NFL with the stop at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, and it took 10 years to get there, and I was part of the losing team. So thank you for reminding me.
Well, listen, the way we see it is if you show up and you get there, that's good enough.
Yeah, it was a thrill. It was a fantastic opportunity, and it was a lot of fun.
I can imagine. There are so many parts of you. I feel like we need to dive into this because not only did you play in the NFL and you had such a great college career, but you are also an author. You are co-founder of the Joshua Frase Foundation. You are a motivational speaker, and my favorite part also is that you are an outstanding advocate for student athletes who are now in this, pipeline of how to get bigger and better and faster. And you're a great advocate for them in the field of protecting their mental health through coaching and through community leaders. So I think that's an amazing thing that you've done with your experience.
Well, I appreciate that. I've enjoyed my time at Syracuse, enjoyed my time at Scranton a few times. One of my teammates, a dear friend, Jimmy Gahan, and I actually joined you, was it 15 years ago?
I think it was about 15 years ago at the Heart Ball.
Right,
yes.
Right. We did a charity event, and what a thrill it was. I always, my son, Joshua, I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit. He was a big fan of Dwight Schrute and Steve Carell. So
yeah. We're glad we can offer your son some entertainment.
Well, I love Scranton and the people that I met, and so it's good to be down here in Florida because it is usually above 60 degrees in February, but. I was just up in New Hampshire and enjoying the new snowfall. So.
Oh, very nice. Beautiful. Well, we were 25 below last week, so it's good for us to be here. Can you tell me, I saw that you were born in New York and then you moved to New Hampshire. Why did you move to New Hampshire? And tell me what it was like growing up there playing football.
So I was born in Elmira. My father was actually a pastor in Horseheads. I guess it's about 6 miles outside of Elmira. I've never been back. At 2 years old, my father took a pastoral job in Barrington, New Hampshire, and that's where I spent the next 17 years until I was whisked away to Syracuse, New York.
So your football career in high school must have been quite something to go to Syracuse, or did you get in, was it academics?
No. I wish I could say that, and I wish I had taken more advantage of the academics when I was there, because Division I scholarships are what you make of it, whether you dive into the sports or the academics. You can really set yourself up, and I should have been more concerned about the academics. But football in high school, not even grade school, because my town was so small, we didn't even have a high school, we didn't even have football. The only reason I played football is because my two older brothers obviously were ahead of me, and they played football at Spalding High in Rochester, New Hampshire. So I played Little League Baseball, I played soccer in 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8, I played basketball.
Oh, okay.
And then the first time I stepped on a field, the only reason I played on my sophomore year in high school, it was the second game of the season, and Wayne Rowell, who I was backing up, and he was one of these kids that had muscles on top of muscles, and I never would have seen the field, but he broke his leg in the first quarter, and I jump in, and when the coach, our head coach of 38 years at my high school and 5 championships, he literally stood up on Sunday afternoon while we're watching the films, and he shuts the film off, and he turns around and he finds me in the crowd, and he says, "Frase, what the heck are you doing out there?" I was flailing around and jumping on piles, and it was...
But you never played, they call it midget football where we come from, but really?
No.
So, all right, so we're going to get back to that later on, because that's actually a very good point. Now, my boys played since they were 6 years old. We may have actually lied about one of their ages to get them on a little bit earlier, because he was just raring to go. I'm gonna comment. I'm gonna say my comments. Well, this is where you and I are probably going to have a little,
we're gonna have a good discussion.
Okay, good. That's good. Nice way to put it. I was going to say good television, but okay.
Right.
All right. So you don't play. You're playing high school. Did you love the game? Why did you stick with it?
I loved the high school game. It was a lot of fun. The competition. I had a great basketball coach in 6th grade, Mike Curran, and he taught us about work ethic, and I think I learned so much from him and the sports, but leading up to football, that when I got on the field, even though it was, it's a grind. Double sessions are not fun. You don't really. You might have one kid on the team that just loves double sessions.
But he's got to be the oddball.
Yeah, the screw loose, but and he doesn't. He's not worried about fixing it up. But anyway, there's nothing that. It comes down to game time, the lights, Friday night under the lights. The whistle blows. You're on grass. Artificial turf. There were no high school fields that are artificial turf. So back then, and the competition just was. I remember one time it was a torrential downpour, and I was on the punt team, and I was covering the punt, and I actually snapped the ball. I ran down, and the rain was flowing so hard, and the kid did not call for a fair catch. I hit him right when he caught the ball, and he literally landed on his back, and we slid about 10 yards in the mud. So
you plowed him over, basically.
Yeah, there you go.
Steamroll.
Yeah.
There are many adjectives we could use for that one. So were you kind of like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that, or were you like,
no, I didn't feel bad for the kid, but it was just like one of those moments, like you get up and you're just kind of exhilarated.
Yeah.
I timed that just right.
Now, when you went to Syracuse, I saw that you were 6'5" and about 280 pounds. Please tell me you weren't that in high school for that poor kid on the punch team.
No. I actually in high school, I never played above 198 pounds. We're talking New Hampshire football.
Right.
And the 198 pounds was okay, I guess. But we had Moose Hart, he was about 265, and Scotty McIver. They both took up two guys because they were just big, and I got to run around, single teamed, and I ran all around the field. And
yeah, you weren't the wall, you had the fun.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
As you can tell, I'm a big football fan. Yes. In previous podcasts, I told the story about how I would be sitting in the stands with my father next to me every game, and I would be like, why are they calling that play again? It never works, right up the middle,
Right
here
up
we
the
go
middle.
again. Christopher was a defensive lineman, so I would be, oh, he's getting pummeled out there, why don't they run a different play?
Double teaming them.
Double teaming, so my father would say, well, if you think you can do any better, just go out and why don't you be
There
the
you go.
coach? So, right? Most of the time, I would be the parent to say, not why isn't my child playing? I would be the one to say, did he just fake an injury? Did he just fake that his foot hurts? Put him back in. Or if he did something wrong, kick him out of the game. I was
Right.
actually that parent,
Right.
not the other way around.
Well, it's good, fair competition, there's nothing like it, and I think that's what drives us as athletes and players is that, you compete, and I think, I think you compete against yourself too, because first of all, you don't want to let your teammates down, but you want to get better. There's a reason. You're not out there for your health. You're out there to get better and better, and try and remember the plays, understand the concepts, understand the schemes of the offense, and it's there's more to it, but
Exhilarating.
yeah, it is.
So you're graduating high school, and how'd you get into Syracuse?
My head coach, again, Hugo Bolin, 38 years there. I was his only Division I scholarship athlete in football, I believe. And he thought that I had the opportunity to play in Division I. So he sent out 100 tapes. Rusty Jones, wasn't that a car?
That's what I was
yeah.
going to say. Right?
Well, there was a guy, Rusty Jones, from New Hampshire, who was a weight coach at the University of Michigan, the Wolverines, Bo Schembechler. So one of Hugo Bolin's 100 tapes that he sent out to everybody, Joe Paterno, and he sends it out to Michigan. They have 2 alumni in Boston in the financial market. They come up and watch a Friday night game, and they say, hey, this kid's good enough to get a visit. At that point, I had no offers on the table. But because Bo Schembechler flew me out, and he actually shook my hand on Sunday and basically said, have a good life, because I was only 208 pounds. Hope you enjoyed yourself, Paul. Enjoy your trip home,
wow.
But the fact of the matter is, Michigan looked at this kid from New Hampshire, and all of a sudden I had 5 Division I offers, Rutgers, Boston College, and it was the Doug Flutie era,
right.
and Jack Bicknell. I think it was Bicknell, and they had, I had already had some scholarship offers for 1AA and stuff like that. But because the Big Blue brought me out, I had a lot of Eastern Seaboard, Rutgers, Syracuse.
What made you decide on Syracuse?
Well, I came and they had just opened up the dome, and Dick McPherson. We were 65th in the nation, and Dick McPherson was so energetic. I was sitting in front of him, and he says, Paul, do you want to be a part of something great? We're going, I'm like, okay, and I'm from New Hampshire. Also, that weekend was the Syracuse St. John's basketball game. 33,000 people in the dome watching a basketball game, and I'm a kid from New Hampshire. I've never been in a stadium that has 30, it was 55,000, for the football, but I was just mesmerized, and Coach Mack was probably a big reason, because I had Jack Bicknell, put his cowboy boots up on his table, and he says, well, Paul, I just don't know why we're losing a local hometown boy to Syracuse. What do you,
Where people would kill to get to Syracuse, right?
Well, yeah.
So it was the electricity.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like they should make a movie out of you already,
Oh,
and we're
gosh.
only at college.
No, there's only one movie out of Syracuse, and I haven't seen it yet.
What is
Ernie Davis, the
Express.
The Express.
Oh.
I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it's a wonderful movie. Met Jim Brown once or twice, met Larry Zonka, and some of the other greats.
Yeah,
So,
you had some good teammates in Syracuse.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Daryl
Yeah.
Johnston, Peter Ewald was my roommate. He was from Peru, New York, and we came in as roommates and kind of small town boys.
Yeah.
Peru's up there, and he's actually from Canada, right? No, is it?
Yeah.
But no, and Donnie McPherson was our quarterback, and Pat Kelly, and we had so many great players on that team.
And it's nice that you have all stayed friends because Jimmy Gaughan that you were talking about, we have been friends since kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
And I truly consider him one of my best friends. We don't
Right.
see each other all the time, but darn it, if I need something or he needs something, it's going to be whose car are we taking?
Yeah,
And
well,
that's the way it is.
He's a gem.
Yeah.
We actually, he was one of those guys that all of us looked up to because he would go home. I mean, when he graduated Syracuse, he went to work.
Right.
And he established himself, and through the business of the highs and lows of business, and man, he just stuck to it. And he was always helping anywhere he could. Again, we did the Muscle Dream Team fundraiser in Boston for the Joshua Frase Foundation for 12 or 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jimmy and Claudine were at probably 10 of those,
Yeah.
10 or 11.
I'm not surprised by that
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
And Jimmy's been working honestly since I can remember.
Yeah.
His father died young and Jimmy took over. And even in high school and middle school, I just remember Jimmy working
Yeah.
all the time. And he was, this big, strong.
He was a heck of a, this is terrible. The
if it's a story, go ahead.
No, the only fight I got in training camp at Syracuse, it was a mistake because it was with Jimmy Gaughan.
Oh, it was against him?
Yeah,
Oh.
and he was a tough,
Yeah.
Scranton tough.
Oh, there's a difference between Scranton tough and just regular tough.
Oh, yeah.
So now you must be in this, kind of quandary of, do you go forward? Do you use your degree? Are you going to go to work? What are you going to do? Was it like that, or was it just very straightforward that you were going to?
I never thought I had an opportunity to play in the NFL. We did. I was one of the tri-captains, and it's kind of funny. It was Ted Gregory and Donnie McPherson, and then that other guy. That was fine. I didn't have much of an ego, but I didn't realize I would get the opportunity. Actually, a friend, Tim Green, up there, he had gone in the draft to the Falcons the year before. And he was at the Senior Bowl the year before, and he said to his coach that he had the Senior Bowl, hey, if you need another defensive lineman, you need to check this Frase kid out. Well, I went there, and you practice in front of the Seattle Seahawks coaching staff that year, and George Dyer was the defensive line coach, and I played really well that week. Mm-hmm. And then Donnie McPherson, the Rico, he should have won the Heisman Trophy that year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember.
Came in second, right?
He came in second behind Tim Brown, but Donnie was more integral to our team than Tim was to Notre Dame. And Donnie, if he had been at Notre Dame, he would have hands down. But anyway, the Rico Japan poll, another senior all-star game, wanted Donnie so bad. They kept saying, Donnie, we want you, come on, for publicity. Donnie finally said, okay, if you want me, you have to take Paul Frase, Pat Kelly, and Tim Vesling. And he never thought they were going to do that.
That's a great friend.
And they did it.
Oh.
And Donnie was like, okay, I'm going to Japan. But we had Lou Holtz as our coach there.
Wow.
What an experience, and what an experience Japan or Tokyo was. It was just fascinating, and I had a really good game there too, against a blue chipper or whatever you called him. He was All-American. I didn't even know it, and I ended up getting a sack or two. He might have just gave up a couple plays. I don't know, but
I doubt it.
yeah.
I doubt it, yeah. You can take credit where credit's due,
okay.
yes. So then what happens?
I don't even have a phone at Syracuse. It's draft day. I know there's no chance I'm going to go and draft the first draft day. I didn't even think I was going to get drafted. And then second day of the draft, I had given Daryl Johnston and Cooper Gardner their phone number to my agent. And Daryl Johnston or Cooper came over at 7:30 in the morning, was banging on my sliding glass door. Frase, get your butt up here. You know, the Jets are on the phone. And
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. And I answer the phone. Hello, hey, Paul, Mike Hickey here. How do you feel about being a New York Jet? And I'm like, great. And he says, okay, I'll call you right back. And they called back and they drafted me. And
That must have been so exciting. How did your parents feel about that? And how did your older brothers feel about that? They're the ones who brought you into the game.
Yeah, exactly. They knew that I had my speed because of running away from them.
You're
So
right.
they definitely took credit. There's
Yes, well, they should, yes.
everybody was excited, and everybody was probably floored and
Surprised.
very surprised. And I had been probably one of the 10 guys drafted from New Hampshire, probably in the history of the football. Now there's another probably 10 or 20, but New Hampshire doesn't
Right.
field a lot of great football players.
I read that, yes, that there's not a lot of people from New Hampshire went to the NFL.
Right.
And in fact, not a lot of even Division I, isn't it? A very small percentage of Division I players who make the NFL, is that right?
Yeah, it's less than 1.2% of Division I players, yeah.
And then Division II and III, I saw that 70 players went to the NFL from both Division II and III.
Yeah,
That's a low amount.
the thing that I guess you don't realize is there's about 1.2 million kids that play high school. I believe it's in the football arena. And then you go down to about 100,000, they say about 93 to 100,000 kids that play Division One, right? I believe.
Right.
And then in my year, when they had 12 rounds, you had 336 guys get drafted in the NFL out of the 1.2 million, 93,000, all the way down. And only half of us made the team.
Oh, really?
Oh,
So
yeah.
even if you get drafted, you don't
No.
make the team then?
No. Now with only 6 rounds and the money has gotten crazy, if you get drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you're pretty sure to at least make it through your first contract because they invest so much money in you.
Right.
But they invested $25,000 in me in a signing bonus in the 6th round. They didn't care. And they only kept 2 left defensive ends. And at that time, it was Mark Gastineau, number 1, 5 other guys, number 2 through 6, and Paul Frase, number 7.
How about that?
Yeah. And
Did you get to play?
in 2 weeks, I had gotten to number 2.
Oh, wow. You know what, I think that's exactly what I read about you, and then we're going to get to, I read that you, and I think it's about your book, in your book as well, and you as a motivational speaker, everyone describes you in almost exactly the same way, that your perseverance and your endurance is just beyond anything that they see in other people.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's because I had to run so far and long away from my brothers or not. There was a drill called the suicide drill. I don't know if they call it that anymore, but it was in basketball. It was the baseline to the foul line to the baseline, half court, baseline, foul, baseline, base, back. And first of all, you had to touch every line. Michael Curran, our 21-year-old coach who was going for his master's at 21, you touched the line every time, and I can see you. And I would run next to my teammates that didn't touch the line. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Touch the line. And I especially enjoyed beating them in that drill because I touched the line.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're competitive as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody who participates in anything that they're passionate about, whether it's music, whether it's acting, sports, you name it, you have to have a level of competition, or
Right.
you just fade into the background.
Right.
And you weren't going to let that happen.
Right.
So you went from 7 to 2.
7-2. Yeah. And then Mark Gastineau. Can I tell a little story?
Sure.
Training camp.
We can edit it if it gets ugly.
Okay, good. Rookie year, training camp. I'm number 7. Mark's number 2. Within 2 weeks, I whittle away, and I'm number 2. Or Mark's number 1. I'm number 2, and we're scrimmaging the Washington Redskins, who had just won the Super Bowl the year before with Doug Williams, with the Hogs.
Scab year.
The Scab year, the Hogs, Russ Grimms, Joe Jacoby. I mean, all some of the best offensive linemen in the league at that time. And Mark Gastineau is dating Brigitte Nielsen. You might have remember that.
Yes.
And we had a defensive offensive scrimmage. So you played 10 plays of defense and 10 plays of offense. Well, we lost the toss, so our defense was out there first, and Mark Gastineau's out there ones against ones. And I'm like, this is great. Okay, I'm fine. Going 2s against 2s. He's 1s against 1s. That's great. We're world champions. I don't have to work with them. This limousine pulls in. We're at Lehigh University. The limousine pulls in through the gate, parks right behind the bench, and Brigitte Nielsen, her secretary, gets out, and then Brigitte gets out. Mark Gastineau is in the middle of the field. He turns and he takes his helmet off, drops his helmet, takes his shoulder pads off. He's walking off the field, and it says, "Hey Joe, I gotta go." Joe Walton was our head coach, and I'm like, you can't call him Joe. He's our coach. Go. He jumps on the hood of the limousine.
Really?
And he says, "Gita, come here." And he starts making out with Brigitte Nielsen. And everybody's just staring at that spectacle. And all of a sudden I hear, "Frase, get your butt out here." I snapped back into it, and I had to go against the starting right tackle of the world champion Washington Redskins.
Holy cow.
Because Mark got in the limo and he drove away.
For the love of a good woman, he left, huh?
Yeah.
And how'd it go for you?
Actually, I went out, I got in the huddle, and I break the huddle, and I go up to the line, and this you ever remember the baseball thing with the big Cujo dog? What is it? Anyway, when the dog breathes, the smoke comes out.
Sandlot.
Yeah.
Sandlot. Literally, that tackle, big, taller than me, big guy. He literally breathes out, and he says, "Fresh meat." And I'm like, oh my gosh, the world champion Washington Redskins. And I still call them the Washington Redskins.
Yeah. Politically incorrect, but okay.
Yeah, but
podcast.
Exactly. But anyway, I actually played pretty well.
Great.
Yeah. I
Well,
may
you
have,
must have. They kept you.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
How long were you there?
7 years.
With the Jets, right?
7 years with the Jets, 2 with Jacksonville, and the inaugural season, and the second season, and then the one in Green Bay. Thank you again for mentioning the loss against John Elway, his first Super Bowl win. So yeah,
He's a good one to lose against.
yeah, he was darn good.
Yeah.
I played against him probably 4 or 5 times, and he was a stud.
Well, even just to get to that far, I mean, when you walked out there on the day of Super Bowl, you must have been like, holy cow, how did this even happen? Right?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. So.
Now, was it back on the Jets that you received, and this is a peer award, peer voting, the Ed Block
Courage
Award.
Yeah.
And not just once, but an unprecedented second time as well.
Yes. That's not an award you want to win once, but it is a special award because it is voted on strictly by your teammates.
Right, no politics.
Yeah, and no politics, and it's basically a comeback of the year type of And I had Graves' disease my second year, my third year, and I didn't even play that whole year. And then I came back and I had the most tackles on the defensive line the next year. So they voted me the Ed Block Courage Award winner, kind of the comeback player of the year.
Well, I would say well-deserved, Doctor. If anybody knows what Graves' disease is,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a weakening disease, and you lose weight very rapidly. I would think as a defensive lineman, losing weight would not really be
No, I
ideal.
went from 272 to 236 in probably 6 weeks, and I went from benching 405 pounds twice to benching 225 pounds, and heart rate at 120 beats a minute.
Yeah.
And-
Well, that's quite a comeback then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You would have voted for you too.
Yeah, if it was, yeah.
Right.
If it was somebody else, yeah, it was, yeah, it definitely was a comeback, I guess back to that competition and perseverance and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why did you receive it the second time?
So I came to Jacksonville in the inaugural season. There was no comeback story. There wasn't a guy that blew his knee out in the previous year and came back and had a great year. And Joshua had been born 18 days before I had to come to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And tell us about Joshua.
Joshua was born one of 55 known cases in the world with a very severe, he had they call it hypotonic baby, floppy baby, no muscles, very, very weak, couldn't hold his head up, could not eat, could not walk, stand, crawl, anything.
Trouble even breathing?
Trouble even breathing. So basically the skeletal muscles, the striated muscles do not complete formation in utero. They basically get stuck in the second trimester. Yep.
Do they eventually grow and,
Their skeletal structure grows, the muscle does not get any stronger. They're as weak as infants at 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 years old. And at that time, there was very little known. He was, in one of 55 known cases, there was only 3 medical journals that we could find. 2 were written in 1967 from a doctor in Manhattan. And we basically used our platform. Allison was from New York, a lot of chutzpah, and I was just like, tell me how to keep my son alive. I'll do anything. What do we have to do? And Allison said they don't know, so we have to figure it out. So we started the foundation, and the Jaguars, or my teammates, voted me. And the Ed Block Courage Award sent it back and said, hey, he's already won. We need another candidate. And Mike Ryan, our head athletic trainer, said, you won't have one if you don't accept Paul Frase from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
So that was very special, and I think it's a 55-year award now, and
Right. Yeah, and you're the only one that has received it twice, correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, that tells you a lot. But you're right. That isn't something you really want. I mean, your son Joshua was born in 95?
95.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then 18 days later, you're drafted and you have to go uproot and go to Jacksonville.
Yes, Tom Coughlin was a college coach mainly, and he was very adamant about his players being there for the voluntary, mandatory off-season workout program. And I was a blue collar. I wasn't white collar. They weren't paying me a ton of money. They didn't have to pay me anything to draft me. They just had to. I still had to make the team.
Right.
So that's how 8 out of 11 years of my years in the NFL. That's how my training camp started.
Yeah. With proving your way every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something great about that, though. I hope when you look back on it, you're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have that any other way.
No, especially with my personality, because if I think things are going good, and there's always another shoe to drop.
You're talking true.
Yeah.
We're brother and sister on that one.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But it's always because you just want to keep moving forward.
Right.
And whenever when you get pushed back, you're desperate to just keep moving forward again. So, and you want to just keep making that forward motion.
Right.
It sounds like a lot of how you are and how
Right.
you've lived so far. So Joshua, he passed away in 2010.
Yes, Christmas Eve 2010, 40 days shy of his 16th birthday. Still, even though the advancements in research have gone mainly because of the Joshua Frase Foundation starting to fund it, it's still 50% of these kids do not make it to 18 months of age.
Okay, so you and I spoke about this before we went on camera, and I promised you I wasn't going to say it, but I take back that promise now. Because that infuriates me. That infuriates me. I always think about if the building was on fire. My nephew's a fireman, and they said there's a baby inside. He's going to run inside and save the baby. He's not going to say, wait a second, how many babies? One isn't worth it. But yet, when it comes to the health care of our children, whether it's pediatric cancer or, the disease that Joshua suffered from, we are unwilling to throw whatever we have at it. We go through rounds of, well, is it cost effective? Well, how many people have it? Is it even worth us looking at? And then it comes back to the parents are the ones who have to raise the money and find the cure. I mean, I'm not saying that parents wouldn't do anything that they have to do. I understand that you would, but I just find it appalling that that's the way it is. We live in the United States of America.
I think, it's a financial situation, period. And fortunately, we were in a perfect storm, meaning gene transfer or gene therapy was just coming back off the shelf. In 1999, Jesse Gelsinger passed, I think it was at University of Penn, from a clinical trial. I think he was 19 years old. Anyway, and they shut down over 2,000 ongoing gene therapy clinical trials. It was a few years after the genome had been discovered and so on and so forth.
As a parent, how did you feel when you heard that?
Well, we didn't even look at the numbers. We knew we had to raise money. We had a dear friend who was our best man at our wedding, and I played with him at Syracuse and with the New York Jets for a couple of years. He played, and then he went in and took Wall Street by storm. He said, Frase, we need to start raising money. And how do you raise money for 55 kids?
Right.
And we did it. And through that process, we found out there's 5,000 to 8,000, probably 10,000 kids out there. And gene therapy was really coming back into vogue. And the big companies were trying to figure out a way to make a few $100 million off of 10,000, because there's at that time there was over 7,000 genetic disorders, rare disease, genetic orphan diseases, which is 200,000 or less patients worldwide.
Okay.
And now there's over like 10,000 genetic disorders that they're trying to figure out. But there was only, when we were going, 7,000 and only 324 therapies. And we were dead set on being number 325.
Right.
And,
Right.
and it takes, I've always said, there's many people that would do anything they could to keep their kids alive, to do what in most cases, that's all we can do is keep our kids alive in a dire situation. It does take a special circumstance. It takes being born into a politician or an NFL player's family. And it takes a mother that won't take no for an answer and has got a lot of grit. And we're going to figure this out.
Right.
And so, not everybody can do that.
Right. But not just figure it out for your own child, but for all the other children around you that have it. And sometimes, you know, I think that since your father was a preacher and we are here in your church filming this podcast, I think you're probably a very spiritual person. And don't you think that, you know, maybe you got out on that football field when you were a sophomore because that was the path you were meant to take to help these children, and your own being one of them?
Nothing is a coincidence. There's so many stories that we could, you know, you need to read the book. There's a lot of stories that you look, really? Did that really happen? And really quick, do you know the story Lorenzo's Oil?
No.
It's basically Susan Sarandon and Nick Nolte play it. He's an Italian engineer or something like that. Anyway, they have a son that is dying, and they'll do anything. This was a true story.
Okay.
And basically, they worked and worked and worked, and they found some type of therapy that would help the other kids, but their son had been too far gone.
Right.
And yeah, you do
the
it.
bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Allison 3 times had been questioning God in that 16-year, 17-year journey. I'm tired. I don't know if I can do it anymore. What am I supposed to do? God, you tell me what I'm supposed to do. And we turn on the TV. You turn on the TV literally, and Lorenzo's Oil is on.
Oh, wow. That's
I'm
amazing.
getting chills.
I
Literally.
know,
That
me too.
happened 3 times in 16, 18 years.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
That is amazing. I would like to meet Allison
Yeah.
someday.
She's
I feel like New York and Scranton, you know, we have a certain
she's a force.
degree of scrappy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 And the foundation is still operating,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
We're-
So let's then move on. You leave the NFL after 11 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And after that, I mean, you had so much more to do. I have to ask you this though, and this may sound like a female question,
Oh.
because we like to overthink things.
Okay.
You know? And you probably don't think anything of it.
Is that what it is? I've got to figure that out someday.
Okay, well-
Okay. All right.
Yes. You and every other male needs to figure it out. But when obviously you are using your body as to make a living. It's your passion, but it's your body, and you're depending on it to stay healthy. And by the way, I also saw that you had a herniated disc at one point, and then went back and played in the playoff game.
Yes.
Okay, back to resilience and endurance. But when you're doing that, you have to know that you have a shelf life, obviously, in the NFL. Did you plan for that and think, what am I going to do after this? Because I will only be in my early 30s and mid 30s when it's over. Or did you not think about it, and then when it happened, you had this, oh boy moment?
I have a male thing of only being able to do one thing at a time. Is that a male thing?
Yes,
Okay.
in fact it is.
Okay. I definitely was thinking along those lines. I did, when I first got into the NFL, I still had 3 credits left. No, I had 1 credit left to get my degree, and it was a freshman English writing course.
No.
And Kyle Clifton was an 8-year linebacker from, he played for the Green Toads, or what's TCU?
It's a
Oh,
Horned
right.
Frogs.
The
Yeah,
Horned Frogs.
yeah.
The Green Toads. The Horned Frogs.
Texas Christian?
Yeah. TCU, yeah. So anyway, he says, Paul, in his Texas accent, Paul, you better get your degree, because if you don't, you're gonna, it took me, I didn't listen to him, and it took me 9 years, and I finally got it.
1 credit?
1 credit, yeah. But I finally got it.
Okay.
Well, what happened was, I was definitely thinking about life after football. I was studying Larry Burkett. He was a Christian financial guy. And he talked about franchises, and I was looking into franchises, and then Josh was born, and my finite one thing at a time, keep my son alive, keep our family together, how do we do this, and then his last 5 years of the insurance companies never lose, and the last 5 years they took away our home health care. And I paid as long as I could, $48 an hour to keep normalcy in our life.
24/7.
And then I ended up being Joshua's night nurse for 5 years. Then I was just holding on, trying to do a couple different things. I had my license to build homes, and actually that's what I've morphed into now. So,
Oh, fantastic.
yeah. So I was very focused on trying to keep Joshua alive, and I just didn't have the capacity, the bandwidth, whatever, to really go after a career and, keep the family, and I was self-medicating a little bit, and that took any other energy that I might have had to put towards something.
To drain you, right.
Yeah.
But nobody can fault you for taking care of your son. I mean, nobody does it better than a parent, number one, and nobody can fault you for that.
Well,
You got me on that one single focus. I mean, if that's going to be your single focus, that's the best one to have. So I don't think anybody could do more than that.
Yeah, we had quite a journey.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can't even imagine, excuse me, but speaking to a lot of the people that I've met along the way, and even I was on the board of the Friendship House, and it was for children with autism. And I remember my friend Al, who was on the board, said that he had to take off 2 days from work because one day he got a call from the insurance company. He said, clearly somebody in their 20s who said, oh yeah, we just wanted to let you know that we've determined that your son is cured of autism and we're not paying any more, nothing, that's it, you're done. And he said, you don't get cured from autism, put somebody else on. And they just said, you're cured from autism. He said, thank God he had the wherewithal to go and fight them 2 straight days, wouldn't leave their office, fought like hell to have them say, oh, fine, okay. Well, maybe he's not cured, we'll check back in another 6 months. But that's the thing I think that people or parents are dealing with, along with the traumatic illnesses and even just the emotional trauma. I mean, that's your child, so it's nothing's worse than having them sick.
Insurance companies never lose.
No, apparently they don't. But you know what? I think that every time somebody like you or somebody like Al or somebody goes against them and does their best and gets it done regardless, I think you won. That's what I think. But I have that Scranton. We'll figure out how we're going to win no matter what.
Jimmy would say we won. That's it.
He would totally say you won. So you wrote a book as well.
Yes.
It is called Game Changer. I'm going to hold it there. And first of all, that is an adorable photo. And you couldn't get any more heartfelt than a mother with her son and a Labrador Retriever on the front. I mean, it's a beautiful book. Tell us what it's about.
So it's about Joshua's story, of course. The chocolate lab on the cover resembles Nibs, and Nibs was the matriarch of the MTM, the only MTM dog colony in the world. And we got our science advanced so much that we saved many of the litter. She had 12 puppies just a few weeks after, 57 days after Allison, and this story is wild. Allison had to go up to Canada, to Saskatoon. And a rancher came down from Leader, Canada with Nibs, with his dog, to give us for research.
Oh.
And it turns out that Nibs actually had the myotubular myopathy gene, MTM1, exactly located exactly on the same location as the carrier, Allison as a carrier. And 1 in 55 cases in the world, and then we have to look for a dog that has the same thing.
And find that dog
And we
that has the same thing.
Yeah. And there's a wild story of finding a dog and then losing the dog just before we found Nibs. And Nibs gave us 12 puppies, and it was the perfect, she had 5 females that were carriers, and one of the 4 males was affected. Exactly like there's a 25% chance if the child is a boy, there's a 25% chance that they will be affected with MTM. That's the genetics of it.
And nibs and her litter, just so we talked about this before, but just so everyone listening knows, nibs and her litter advanced the scientific research
Yes.
tremendously
Oh, yes.
in that area.
Yeah. We had Nibs was in whelped in Virginia, just across the North Carolina border, and then we brought all the puppies to Wake Forest, and little gray guy, the one that actually was affected with MTM. The dogs only make it to 17 to 22 weeks, and they naturally expire. We never, obviously, let's go back, we did not engineer Nibs to have MTM. Nibs had it naturally.
Right.
But what happened was little gray guy gave us 5,000 files of information in that 20 weeks or 17 weeks. And we were able to work with a company in France, and that were already using a serum that worked with mice for MTM. And we collaborated with them and used their serum on some of the descendants of Nibs and cured them. We had some dogs that they said they literally used the word curative measures.
Amazing.
And they never say that in clinical. You know, usually you're expecting 20% or 30% improvement, maybe.
Right.
If you get 10%, the FDA might allow you to go into clinical trials. Well, we were getting histology changed, muscle cells changed, and 300% increase in strength in like 3 weeks.
Oh, amazing.
So,
Amazing.
yeah, it's quite a story.
Yeah, it is. I
And
am going to read it.
well,
I'm
it's
just saying that.
it's 2 awards. It's our award-winning book about our son Joshua.
That's-
So, yeah.
Yes. I'm going to ask you this because I already know the answer because I read it somewhere, but of course, no, I'm going to save it for the end. Let's have a fire round now because we're running out of time,
Right.
Yeah.
and there's so much I want to ask you. So, fire round. Do you think that the state of organized sports today is good for the mental health of the players? Not just one or two, but as a community?
Emotionally, I think NIL is ridiculous.
What is NIL?
The name, image, and likeness, where the college players are getting paid astronomical sums of money. The reason, and I think that messes with them emotionally, mental health, emotional, because, well, one thing I think, if they're going to let them pick and choose and go to the highest bidder, they should go once and have to fulfill their contract before they get the opportunity to jump back in the portal. It's teaching these kids that they just don't care. It's teaching them not to care about anything but the almighty dollar.
Or to complete a task?
Yeah.
If you're signing, complete the task and then go
Exactly,
on.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
how do you feel that very same question, but now we're going to put that into youth sports? And by youth, I mean, at this point, 13 and under.
I'm to the point where I started getting involved with CTE trials, clinical trials for biomarkers back in 8 or 10 years ago with the Boston University. At 47 years old, my brain just flatlined. It was weird. I knew there was some chemical changes going on. I found out what CTE is, and I did a deep dive and studied it. I've gone to the point where, okay, no concussive sports contact, no heading the ball in soccer, no contact in Pee Wee football, no helmet, flag football until 14. That's what I started out with. Now I've started learning about the myelin sheath. The prefrontal cortex is the last part of the brain to get the myelin sheath to start developing, and that it doesn't happen until 18, 22, 26 years old. And the myelin sheath is the axonal protection or the neuronal protection to protect these kids. Every time you hit, your brain sloshes and your brain hits the front of your skull and it hits the back of your skull. And the problem is repeated head impacts cause CTE. There's no, it's irrefuted or whatever you want to say. It's a fact. So when I'm to the point where no contact sports, and you're a football mom and you're a sports mom and you might, but no contact sports, no concussive sports until you're 18. And if you want to choose to do a rough job or get into wrestling or get into MMA, or you want to start playing contact football, you can work on your agilities up until you're 18. Now, nobody's going to agree to that. I get it. But the problem is when we're strapping helmets on these 7-year-olds that don't have any myelin sheath in their prefrontal cortex, and they're getting hit 300 to 900 or 1,000 times a year, they are setting themselves up for CTE, brain, repeated head impact related, and along with that goes mental health issues, period, and suicide ideation, and.
And it's been on the rise for many, many, many years.
The youngest kid that committed suicide, 17 years old, they found CTE in him. He was a hockey player. So the repeated head impacts is what causes. Last thing, there's a study, 152, 30 years or younger, deceased concussive sport players, no professional athletes in that 152. 100% had white matter brain damage from banging their head.
Okay, so here's
100% had the brain damage, 100% had mental health issues, 41% had CTE, and over 50% committed suicide. Okay, what's your question?
Well, you cannot beat those numbers. My
Right.
question is here, we're going to play devil's advocate.
Yes.
Because people are going to say, oh, okay, but I've got this son, he loves, let's say football, because I think when people think of concussions, they think of football, even though, look,
Right.
every other sport has their issues as well. But my son loves it. How am I supposed to stop him from playing football? And by the way, how is he supposed to get into a good college, maybe get a scholarship and play football, and then maybe even move on? Because everyone else is going to be doing that. And if my son walks on at 18 years old, there's no way that's happening for him. What do you say to that?
Well, it has to be a societal change, and it has to be a uniform change. You can't have Oklahoma having contact sports and Rhode Island having no contact sports. It has to be.
Right.
But it is. I know it's a tall order, but I'm just to the point where we're not protecting our kids' brains. Thus, we are saying it's okay for them to have mental health issues, possibly spurred on from repeated head impacts. And mommy and daddy have to deal with that kid.
Sure.
But
And I think them having the information is important for them, because
Yes.
then they can make that decision.
Yes.
And you know what, even, kids are way smarter than we give them credit for.
Yes.
I don't think any child says, yeah, you know what, I love football so much, I want to have a mental illness later on.
one thing that would be great for the governing authorities to take hitting out of practice, at least, because if you only hit 1 day a week instead of 4 or 5 days a week, you're essentially taking 80% of those repeated head impacts out of the question, just off the table.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Why do you have to?
Right.
And there's that one coach at St. John's University, not the Redmen, but it's St. John's, and he never hit in practice, and they won like 20 championships in a row. I don't know, but anyway.
So you just answered my next question then. How are we supposed to be better and competitive against all these other teams if they're hitting and we're not?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just showed that.
Yeah.
And this also goes to my next question. Youth sports are so, I don't even want to use the term organized, because I like organized. I read somewhere where they're like a power pipeline, just really, they're getting to the point where children have to practice 4 days a week, and then they travel all weekend long, and they're in the car for 2 hours, and then they, I was a travel basketball. And then they play a couple games, they never see the light of day for the entire weekend, and then we have to travel a couple of hours back home. And they just keep doing this. Now, I have read that somewhere along the line of 13 or 14 years old, kids don't like the competition. They can't handle it anymore. They can't stand the constant travel. They can't stand the pressure that the coaches and the parents put on them. They don't think it's fun anymore, and they're now performing, they're not playing. And they leave the sport. That did happen with us. My one son was a very good basketball player, as tall as you, in fact. And he loved the sport. And then I could see all of it kind of getting, he didn't want to play anymore, and, injuries and things like that. And then the only time he would really play is if his teammates came and said, please, we need you. And then he would get up and say, okay. But he wasn't doing it for himself. And he stopped playing basketball.
It's tough. My daughter played volleyball in 7th and 8th grade, and she was good enough to be on this travel team, and lo and behold, there were not enough 13-year-old girls in Jacksonville, where there's 1.7 million people, so she had to travel to Minnesota to play in a tournament. And I'm like, what are we doing to these kids?
Right.
What are we doing? And yes, you experienced it firsthand. That's emotional, mental health that your son, he probably was in turmoil, right? Well, I'm sure he was.
Right.
Do I play? So. I'm tired of this. Okay, I want it. Well, you just don't know what we put our kids through.
Right.
Maybe not you, but it's a societal. It's just in why all these travel teams and all these hotels and all this time and all this money. It's all about money.
It is all about money. Then I think the parents would argue. Now, again, I don't believe this, but I think the parents would argue that this is the way my son or my daughter is going to get recognized and picked up somewhere, or that's how they're going to advance their career.
If you're good enough, I was in the state of New Hampshire, where I was the only one that went in 50 years from my high school for Division I. If you're good enough, they find you. Now, that's not to say that if you have Johnny or Johnny or Susie having a personal coach at 7 years old all the way up to 18, that they're not going to be better at their sport, and they're going to be better conditions, and they're going to have better abilities at that point. They might not be the tallest or the biggest or the best athlete, but they're going to be better and more well equipped to play that sport right there. But it's the emotional and physiological and physical abuse that we put on these kids and make them go. Now, the fact of the matter is those numbers are not going to change. 1.1 million that play in high school, 93,000 in Division I or whatever, Division I, II, and III, and then 242 in the case of football. 224 now, and not every kid makes it. 224 out of the 1.2 million. And you're going to make your child go through and miss play. I talk about John Broderick is a former Chief Justice of New Hampshire, and we do a talk together, and he said, we've pushed play out of these kids' lives. And when one kid that he was talking to, he was a senior, and his day started at 5:30 on the ice hockey rink and his lights went out at 11:30 every single night, and every hour of his day was planned.
Right. Performing. It was, I have to be the best athlete, I have to be the best student, and there's no time for family, there's no time for hanging out with friends, there's no time to be a normal child.
Yeah, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
Do you
Balance.
think cutting out the travel would help?
Oh yeah, there's no need to travel. It's a money grab for these organizations. This I-9, I love this flag football and stuff. They probably have tournaments all over the country now, and you probably have to travel now, but They didn't start out traveling.
Yeah, but like you just said, and that's exactly where I was going with that. Because when we play devil's advocate and the parents say, but they have to, times have changed, this is the way of the world now, they have to do it. No, they don't, because those stats you just gave are recent stats. So it's not helping.
They've been consistent throughout, you know.
There you go. It's not helping though.
No, it's not happening.
It's not changing, moving the dial at all.
No.
So let's get back to
No.
rational. Okay?
Yeah, I like that.
What else? Any other recommendations for parents now that and I'm talking about all of it, I know that you meet with community leaders, I know you meet with coaches and try and change the perspective of people of where we need to go. What advice would you give parents right now, or even coaches?
Well, the coaches, the fact of the matter is, the extreme things that I mentioned, of 18 years old, then you can choose, never probably going to happen in our lifetime, maybe not. So the coaches really need to understand repeated head impacts is what will cause early onset dementia, a lack of executive function, in your later years, a lot more sooner than you would naturally, and mental health issues, and even suicide ideation, period. It's no doubt about it. It's factual. Stop hitting the kids in the head. Go down to one drill a week. If you have to hit and you have to, provide toughness on goal line stands or something, maybe you get on the goal line stand and you hit for 15 minutes a week. Mm-hmm. And then the rest you can do fast, quick agilities. Pete Carroll was awesome for this. Marvin Lewis was a coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a defensive coordinator for the Ravens. He had his guys in helmets and shoulder pads, no pads, never hit. But when you came off that line, you better be going full boom. You shiver. You run to the ball. You go. You have your hand placement. You can coach effectively, and for Sunday afternoons, without hitting for Friday nights first, without hitting the head. Saturdays in college, and then Sundays, of course. The parents, just be aware of your child's brain health and what repeated head impacts can and will cause down the road. And it might not be tomorrow or the next year, but when I have a dear friend, her son played fullback at Dartmouth, and at 32 years old, he committed suicide. He never played in the NFL, and he was found to have brain damage and CTE. Okay, stop hitting your kids in the head, do your agility drills, get them hand placement, do whatever you have to do your footwork. Don't hit in the head. Parents understand the health and the implications of repeated head impacts.
Right. Well said. Final question.
There's one more?
That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, I am a trained lawyer, though. When I say that, I break it into 20 parts.
Okay.
Now, who did you earn your courage from?
So my father was not a gregarious, outgoing, strong, powerful man. I got to spend, I just lost him 3 weeks ago, and I got to spend about 3.5 weeks, almost a month with him. And he was fighting a devastating, this new thing that's popped up, this Merkel cell carcinoma. It's not new, but it's very, very, very rare. Merkel cell carcinoma. And it was atrocious what it was doing to him. And he told me, he said, Paul, he says, it's time to tighten my belt a notch and keep on trucking.
Aww.
So I think at that moment, all the passivity and he was a strong man. So.
The silent ones are always the
Mm.
strongest. Well, Paul, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. Well worth our trip. I hope that we can talk again soon, because I feel like, we broached the subject, but I think that there's so much more that we can talk about. So next time you come to Scranton.
It's been a pleasure, and I can promise it'll be in July or August. So.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. It really was worth our trip to come here, to hear from someone whose life story actually is from Friday Night Lights to the Super Bowl, and then can talk about how we need to take care of our children better in youth sports, and of course the story about your own son and how we need to really band together and get some of this work done on our own, I think is such a testament. I think that they were right, Paul. I think that you deserve that award and courage, not once but twice, but you are resilient and you do really have endurance, and I think that that's a great thing for people to see, and we enjoyed having you as our guest.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Wear your t-shirt.
Yes,
Well,
I will.
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for joining us on Through the Hurricane. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Through the Hurricane. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.